Hello, my name is Gary Miller. I'm a research entomologist with the USDA's Systematic Entomology Laboratory. I'm standing beside one of the world's largest collection of microscope slides of aphids. Each one of these drawers contains hundreds of these slides. However, other arthropods are also prepared on microscope slides. Today, I'm going to show you how to make a microscope slide of a mealybug, family Pseudococcidae, for examination or identification purposes. So let's go over what you will need to make a permanent microscope slide. You'll need a set of micro tools, a series of dishes for transfers, a slide centering stage, microscope slides and cover slips, your chemicals for clearing, staining, and dehydration, permanent mounting medium, in this case Canada balsam, a hot plate or warming tray, a good light source, such as this fiber optic light source, and of course a good microscope, such as this binocular microscope. Here I've set up a couple of dishes to make our initial transfer. The mealybugs were received in a vial, an alcohol vial, and I'm going to pipette one of the specimens out. Just pull it up and transfer it to the dish on the left. I'm going to add KOH to the dish on the right, and this is a 10% KOH solution. Just fill it up here. A few extra bubbles, but that'll be okay. And we're going to take our micro spatula, just get under the mealybug. Sometimes you have to poke and prod. Instead, I had trouble with that, so I just used a forceps. No problem. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm using a micro probe, and I'm just inserting that microprobe into the integument to pierce the integument, and that'll allow the KOH to penetrate the tissues. So you can either allow that to soak for a time, or you can put it on a hot plate under gentle heat. So here is our mealybug after it's been in a KOH solution for a while, and you can see that you're getting some clearing on here, and I'm just showing you where that tissue has begun to clear. I'm going to use the pair of spatulas here, and I'm pushing down on the mealybug. And you can see a little bit of that fat body coming out. Just gently push the mealybug against the bottom of the dish and make sure you don't use too much pressure. The fat body's coming out nicely. Sometimes for specimens that have a lot of fat body on them, we've also found it helpful to actually soak the mealybug in a dish detergent for a little while, and that helps to break up the fat. But the KOH for this particular specimen works nicely. So I'm just moving the specimen, getting some of those body contents out. Again, you don't want to press too hard on this because we don't want to break the different structures, the different setae. Gently keep doing that. You can see the specimen is starting to ghost here, and what I do is I get under the specimen and just use the surface tension of the KOH to kind of flush that contents out. Keep moving it. I've almost got this completely cleared out. It's a little hard to see from the other contents that are in the dish, but the KOH is still working as we're doing this, of course. little bit in the head area around the thorax. Again, I use the surface tension here. Now, this specimen is clearing out nicely for us. We've almost got it invisible here in the KOH solution. That's okay. You don't want to over clear. It's kind of that fine line. Again, just working around the edges there. We're going to get up underneath the specimen. Now we're going to make a transfer to the double stain, and this particular stain is available commercially. It contains acid fusin and lignin pink. I'm using the smaller microspatula in this case, just getting up underneath that specimen and drop it right into the double stain. You'll see some bubbles forming in that body cavity, and don't worry about that too much. You'll have plenty of time to get the bubbles out of the specimen. Those kind of add a little extra, you might say, scrubbing to the insides. I'm just moving it around. Now we're ready for our next step, which is the 70% alcohol transfer. My specimen's been in the double stain for a little while, and here you have an extra chance to clear any of the other contents out. I have a small air bubble that's been trapped in there. So what I'm trying to do here is just try to work that bubble out a little bit. And again, you just push it against the dish, bottom of the dish, kind of move it around, try to get that out of the cavity. A little extra prodding and bubbles almost out. There we go. So I'm filling the dish up here with 70% alcohol. That's our next dehydration step. I want to get the spatula underneath the specimen here. Just get up under it and transfer it to the 70%. So this step is actually not only a dehydration step, but it's also a destaining step. And you want to remove the excess stain from the specimen. So you want to try to get any of that double stain solution out of the body cavity. Push it down gently. You can still see there may be a little bit of extra body contents in that. I'm doing this gently. Again, I don't want to break any of the CD. You don't want to leave it in the 70% too long because, of course, the alcohol will evaporate. But you're seeing I'm destaining that, getting the double stain out of the body cavity. And we're going to be ready for our next step, which is the 95% alcohol. Here I'm filling the dish up with 95% alcohol. I want to get the specimen, it's like the other steps, you're just going to get underneath that specimen with your spatula. Kind of move it around, float it a little bit, and then right on the spatula surface, you can try to destain any if you want to. And then just transfer to the 95 as I'm doing here. Gotten most of the stain out in the 70%, but there may be a little extra in that body cavity. And here I'm just flushing the contents again with the surface tension, doing a little bit more work with the spatula. Our next step is the clove oil, which is the final dehydration. Nice thing about clove oil is this is also a holding step. You can keep your specimen in clove oil for an extended period of time if you need to. Just under the specimen again, and right on the clove oil, and you can see your specimen will skate kind of on the surface of that clove oil. And you can see the alcohol that's being pulled away from the body contents there. One of the things you do want to keep it in the clove oil long enough to make sure all the alcohol is removed from the body contents. And again, you can kind of use this up and down action to flush out any excess alcohol. The specimen's nicely stained, a nice differential staining there. Now we're ready for the actual slide mounting of the specimen. Here I'm applying a little bit of Canada balsam to a microscope slide. You'll see underneath that slide is my mounting stage. It's a cardboard stage where I've placed several markers, and this will help us line up the specimen as direct center on the microscope slide. So you want to get a nice even application on that slide. And you don't want to get too much balsam on there, but you don't want to get too little also. We use the spatula, get up underneath the specimen in the clove oil. I'm having a little hard time with that. There we go. What I like to do is just take a little bit of that excess clove oil just to remove it. I use just a paper towel in this case. And now we want to center that specimen directly on that middle dot that I've placed there on the mounting stage. Kind of get underneath the specimen, move it around if you have to. I'm going to use a micro probe. I'm going to change tools here. It's kind of folded on itself, so I'm just kind of teasing that body out and moving it around so that I can get it absolutely right on the center. This is pretty good here. Okay. Now our next step is to put the cover slip over that specimen and the balsam, and you want to get that centered again. Lay it right on there, as flat as you can. And I just like to tap it down a little bit. In this case, my balsam is probably a little bit too thick. That's okay. Still slide that cover slip around a little bit, try to get the balsam adhering to that cover slip using the surface tension. One of the little tricks that I've learned is to just take a little bit of that clove oil and touch it just underneath the slide or underneath the cover slip. And what that will do is thin the balsam out enough that it'll move it closer to the edges. It'll help spread the balsam out. And you can still manipulate the cover slip, pushing it down a little bit, getting that balsam to move out to the edges. And here I'm just adding one more drop to the top. Another trick is to also place the slide on a warming tray as well. That'll help too. There we have it. Finally, you will want to label your slides and place them in a drying oven, such as the one we have here. We keep the temperature set at about 30 degrees centigrade. And this is important because it allows the mounting medium to set. The length of time required in the oven depends upon the thickness of the microscope slide mount. I hope this video has helped you prepare a microscope slide. And with practice and patience, you'll be well on your way to developing this important skill.